Good morning. The theme for this week is identity. A simple word, but one underneath which, if you scratch at the surface, lies a whole realm of complexity. I'm sure you all, like me, have watched with horror at the events in America over the past weeks, including the murder of George Floyd and the ongoing police brutality of certain groups of humans. We've also perhaps been uplifted by the outpouring of protest around these and the strength of a united human spirit that such discrimination cannot and must not go unchallenged. This assembly around the idea of identity, I hope, offers a small personal reflection on this. Imagine the following scene. You're at an event with new people to meet and someone asks you to engage in that classic icebreaker where you have to say 3 interesting things about yourself. This brings up the fundamental question of self-identity. Perhaps the reason why I always struggle with this question is I don't know which aspects of my identity to go for, as if a human's identity could be summed up in 3 words alone. When I think about what makes me, me, I can think about those parts of identity which are visible: my sex, my height, my race, my physical appearance. I imagine you could guess how old I am. But of course, there are plenty of other aspects of my own identity: my cultural heritage, my friendship groups, my education and learning, not to mention my upbringing, my family, my career, my likes and dislikes. And I'm afraid to say, even my realization during lockdown that I will never be able to win the Great British Bake Off. You might well have experienced this type of icebreaker when you start a new club or join a new school. What would you say? Would you go for those physical and visible markers of your identity? Or would you go for your favourite subject, your most enjoyable Forger activity, or a recent achievement? How about your religion, or even your star sign? So it seems that all of our identities are a wonderful mixture of different aspects that make us who we are. When we put these all together, such identities build up to make our society more diverse and more reflective of our ongoing histories, of our voices, of our stories, which together make up the human narrative. A narrative that continues to this day of human lives and human voices, each of which is infinitely valuable and each of which carries an absolute worth. Following this assembly, there comes a series of reflections from our own student body on this theme of identity, and how within our rich community there are a multitude of different voices and individuality that give us such vibrancy and which makes me proud to be a member of St Dunstan's. I do hope you enjoy those powerful messages. Because at St Dunstan's, we gain strength from our diversity. We gain a deeper understanding of who we all are through each identity, and we benefit from being a community of individuals, each one of which is to be celebrated. Put together, these identities make St Dunstan's the special place that it is, be that when we are gathered together in the Great Hall or when we are joining together digitally at this time. Our identities, who we are, what makes us us, are of great value. Our lives are ones of great potential. Which makes it all the more abhorrent for us at St Dunstan's when those unhideable aspects of individual identity are the cause of horrific injustice. An injustice which still exists within the world and which at St Dunstan's we must be prepared to face head on whenever it comes our time to leave this vibrant and diverse community and venture out into a world which might not universally share our human values. We still live within a world where women earn less than men for the same work. We still live in a world where to be an out and proud gay man or woman could mean a death sentence in certain places. And as we have seen played out over the past few weeks, we still live within a world where a human's racial identity can stereotype, endanger, or even kill them. Like so many others across the St Dunstan's community and across the world, we have watched with horror as this played out across America once again, with the murder of George Floyd, who tragically was killed on the 25th of May 2020, and whose murder has reawakened such grief, such anger, and such protests. I share that anger, that grief, and that resolve to ensure that we build a more just future, to ensure that human identity can rightfully be cherished in all its diversity and fullness. As a white man, I will never be able to fully comprehend what it must be like to be a black man or woman in America fearful of their lives. But that doesn't make me any less committed to my belief that human identity can only be celebrated if all human identities are celebrated. That human lives can only be celebrated if all human lives are celebrated. Human life has an absolute and non-negotiable worth. Black lives matter. Thank you.
I identify, I guess, solely based on my appearance as a mixed race girl. Sometimes this can be tricky, as I do not feel by any means that I completely fit into the white community, nor do I fully feel part of the black community. However, I am very grateful and proud to have this identity, because I feel that through the two sides of my family, I get to experience firsthand these two communities and these two identities.
I identify as a brown Muslim girl. I would say my race plays a really big factor in my identity, as it contributes to how other people identify me. I think as well, being brown, it's key in representing my Asian background, my cultural background, and that's a really big part of who I am, something I'm really proud of. I would say my faith also plays a key role in my identity, as that contributes to how I act, how I interact with other people, my general mindset. And I'd say my gender is a big part of my identity, as within society I think it plays a key role in the opportunities or the restrictions that you might have in the working world, as well as just within functioning society.
So I identify as a Greek immigrant to this country, and this has been very tricky for me, especially since I'm not able to relate to a lot of the stuff that people of my age find really normal from their childhoods. I had a completely different childhood. So for that reason, I didn't like my identity in the past, but I've come to accept that being Greek is something that I'm very proud of, and it's something that continuously gives me strength.
As a female, a very important part of my identity is being a feminist. I can see how I may face disadvantages in my life due to my gender. However, it's also very important that I recognise the privilege that I have due to the colour of my skin. I therefore look up to people who strive to make the world a more equal place, and I try to follow in their footsteps.